When you think of Russell Westbrook, one word instantly comes to mind: intensity. From the very first time he stepped onto an NBA court with the Oklahoma City Thunder, Westbrook brought a fire that few players could match. He wasn't just fast, he was relentless. He wasn't just athletic, he was explosive. And most importantly, he played every single game as if it was his last. Fans noticed, coaches noticed, and soon the entire NBA realized that Westbrook wasn't just another guard, he was a force of nature. Westbrook's rise to stardom was unique. Coming out of UCLA, many scouts thought he was too raw, too wild, and too unpredictable to be a reliable NBA point guard. But he proved them wrong almost immediately. Alongside Kevin Durant, Westbrook became the face of a young and dangerous Thunder team. Their chemistry wasn't always perfect, but it was electric. Durant was the smooth scorer, the silent assassin, while Westbrook was the emotional engine, the one who pushed the pace, attacked the rim, and set the tone. In those early years, Westbrook's energy was contagious. He made plays that had fans jumping out of their seats: coast-to-coast layups, thunderous dunks, fearless drives into big men twice his size. Westbrook played with no fear, and that fearlessness is what made him special. He wasn't scared of LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, or any other superstar. He wanted to go right at them, possession after possession. NBUT. What really set Westbrook apart was his motor. It never stopped. Even on nights when his shot wasn't falling, he found other ways to impact the game. He'd grab 12 rebounds, dish out 15 assists, or pick up steals by playing with relentless effort. It didn't matter if the Thunder were up by 20 or down by 20. Westbrook played the same way. For teammates, that was inspiring. For opponents, it was exhausting. The defining chapter of Westbrook's career came in 2016-2017. After Kevin Durant shocked the world by leaving Oklahoma City to join the Golden State Warriors, many thought the Thunder would collapse. But Westbrook turned heartbreak into history. That season, he averaged a triple-double for the first time in over 50 years, joining Oscar Robertson as the only players to ever do it. He didn't just do it once, he did it multiple times, proving that it wasn't a fluke. Night after night, Westbrook carried the Thunder on his back, finishing with an MVP trophy and countless unforgettable highlights. It was during this period that Westbrook became more than just a player. He became a symbol of loyalty, of passion, of fighting back even when the odds were against you. Fans who had been crushed by Durant's departure found hope again in Westbrook. He didn't complain, he didn't beg for sympathy, he just went out and played harder than anyone else in the league. NFOR many, Westbrook was the ultimate competitor. He gave fans everything they wanted: excitement, unpredictability, and heart. He wasn't polished like Steph Curry or calculating like Chris Paul. He was raw emotion, bottled up and unleashed every night. And that's why people loved him. NBUT. While Westbrook's MVP season and triple-double streak cemented him as a legend, it also created a problem. His style of play, high energy, high usage, and high risk, was thrilling, but it wasn't always efficient. He could dominate a regular season game, but in the playoffs, when defenses tightened and every possession mattered, Westbrook's weaknesses became harder to hide. And still, in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that Russell Westbrook had carved his name into basketball history. He wasn't just another star, he was the kind of player you couldn't ignore. Love him or hate him, you had to respect him. And yet, as time would soon show, the very qualities that made Westbrook great, his energy, his stubbornness, his refusal to change, would also make his decline one of the hardest to watch in NBA history. After Russell Westbrook's MVP season, the basketball world stood divided. On one side, fans praised his loyalty to Oklahoma City and his relentless style of play. On the other, critics wondered if his high-energy approach could ever win a championship. For years, Westbrook had been the heart of the Thunder, but as time passed, cracks began to show. His refusal to slow down, his struggles with efficiency, and his clashes with teammates started to shape a very different story. The beginning of Westbrook's decline wasn't obvious at first. In 2018, the Thunder traded for Paul George, and many thought the pairing could bring them back into championship contention. For a while, it worked. Westbrook adjusted, letting George take more shots, even finishing that season as the NBA's scoring leader, but the playoffs told a different tale. In the first round, against the Portland Trail Blazers, Damian Lillard ended the Thunder's season with his legendary deep buzzer beater. That shot didn't just send Oklahoma City home, it ended an era. Soon after, Paul George requested a trade, and Westbrook was dealt to the Houston Rockets. NFOR Thunder fans, it was heartbreaking. The man who had stayed after Durant's departure was finally leaving too. But for Westbrook, Houston was supposed to be a fresh start. Paired with his old teammate James Harden, the Rockets became one of the league's most intriguing experiments. Both were ball-dominant guards who thrived with the ball in their hands. Could they coexist? And at first, the answer seemed to be yes. Westbrook adapted surprisingly well, cutting more, running in transition, and attacking the rim, while Harden handled the half-court offense. For stretches of the season, Westbrook looked reborn. He had big scoring nights, explosive drives, and once again reminded fans why he was such a unique talent. But then came the playoffs. Houston's small ball strategy ran into the Los Angeles Lakers, and suddenly Westbrook's weaknesses were impossible to ignore. His jump shot was broken, his decision-making was shaky, and his reckless drives often led to turnovers. Critics didn't hold back. Westbrook was no longer the unstoppable force he once was. After only one season, Houston traded him to the Washington Wizards. Another team, another jersey. By this point, Westbrook was no longer viewed as a superstar who could carry a franchise. He was seen as a star whose best years were behind him. Still, in Washington, he gave fans one last taste of vintage Westbrook. Alongside Bradley Beal, he put up triple-doubles, fought his way into the playoffs, and reminded everyone of his heart. But even that wasn't enough. The Wizards traded him again, this time to the Los Angeles Lakers. This was supposed to be the big moment. Westbrook joining forces with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the Lakers sounded like a dream team. 3 stars, all chasing a championship together. But instead of glory, the move turned into a disaster. Westbrook's fit was awkward from the very beginning. He wasn't a shooter, he wasn't a floor spacer, and he wasn't the kind of guard who could play quietly next to LeBron. Every mistake he made was magnified, every missed layup or turnover became a meme, and every game felt like proof that Westbrook's time as a superstar was over. Fans in Los Angeles grew frustrated. The media piled on, former players criticized him on TV, and for the first time in his career, Westbrook looked shaken. The man who once played with supreme confidence now seemed hesitant, unsure, even broken. He wasn't the hero of Oklahoma City anymore. He was the scapegoat in Los Angeles. And eventually, the Lakers traded him to the Utah Jazz, who quickly bought out his contract. Westbrook then joined the Los Angeles Clippers, staying in the same city but with a new chance. The Clippers didn't need him to be the MVP. They just needed him to bring energy off the bench, to play his role, and to accept that he wasn't the star anymore. To his credit, Westbrook adjusted. He showed flashes of his old self, diving for loose balls, pushing the pace, and energizing the team. But the truth was clear. The days of Westbrook being the face of a franchise were over. Westbrook's decline wasn't just physical. Yes, he lost a step in speed. Yes, his explosiveness wasn't quite the same. But the real problem was that the game had changed. The NBA had shifted toward three-point shooting, spacing, and efficiency. Westbrook's style, attacking the rim, taking mid-range jumpers, playing at full speed all the time, wasn't built for this new era. Younger guards like Luka Doncic, Ja Morant, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander represented the future. Westbrook represented the past. Still, even as his role shrank, one thing never changed: his passion. No matter what jersey he wore, no matter what city he played in, Westbrook still gave everything he had. For some, that made his decline even harder to watch. The same fire that once made him unstoppable now made him stubborn, unwilling to adjust fully to his limitations. NBY. The time Westbrook's Clippers stint began, his career had become a cautionary tale. He went from MVP to journeyman in just a few years. From being the face of Oklahoma City to hopping from team to team. From being celebrated as a hero to criticized as a liability. And yet, even in decline, Westbrook remained unforgettable. Because love him or hate him, one thing was always true: Russell Westbrook never cheated the game. The NBA has changed dramatically over the last decade, and in many ways, Russell Westbrook became both a product of his era and a player left behind by the new one. When he entered the league in 2008, the game was still dominated by isolation scoring, mid-range jumpers, and traditional positions. Westbrook thrived in that environment because it valued sheer athleticism, fearlessness, and the ability to take over games with raw energy. He was the embodiment of intensity, a player who attacked the rim like a running back crashing through defenders, who played every possession as if it were his last. NBUT, the modern NBA, looks very different. Today, teams value efficiency above all else. Three-point shooting, spacing, advanced analytics, and role players who know how to fit into a system. Westbrook, despite all his gifts, has always been a player who lives by volume. He thrives when he has the ball, when he can dictate the pace, and when he is allowed to play with controlled chaos. That style made him an MVP in 2017 when he averaged a triple-double and became a global sensation. Yet, in the years that followed, the league moved further away from his style and more toward players like Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. Players who combine efficiency, vision, and shooting. The problem for Westbrook isn't talent. It's fit. Coaches today want guards who can stretch the floor, knock down threes, and defend multiple positions. Westbrook, at his best, is a relentless driver and playmaker, but his outside shooting has always been inconsistent. Defenses figured out long ago that they can back off him, pack the paint, and dare him to shoot. In a league obsessed with spacing, his presence sometimes shrinks the court instead of expanding it. This isn't to say Westbrook hasn't tried to adapt. In Houston, alongside James Harden, he adjusted his shot profile, attacking the basket relentlessly and cutting down on threes. For a stretch in 2020, it worked beautifully. He was putting up massive numbers again and looked rejuvenated. But then injuries, the pandemic bubble, and roster changes derailed that momentum. By the time he left Houston, his reputation as a star was already in decline. When he landed with the Washington Wizards, he again produced a triple-double season and helped drag the team into the playoffs. Yet the whispers around the league remain the same. Yes, Russ can put up numbers, but can he win you games in May and June? The Wizards were happy to have him, but contenders were wary. Westbrook's force of personality can dominate a locker room, and while he has never been accused of laziness, in fact, teammates often admire his work ethic. His need for the ball and inability to excel without it made him less attractive as a secondary option. Then came the Los Angeles Lakers chapter, which may have been the most damaging to his reputation. On paper, pairing Westbrook with LeBron James and Anthony Davis looked like a potential super team. But in practice, it was a disaster. The Lakers had no spacing, Westbrook struggled with turnovers and missed jumpers, and the media spotlight magnified every mistake. Fans and analysts quickly turned him into a scapegoat. The nickname Westbrick began trending, and suddenly one of the league's most respected stars became a punchline. What people forget, though, is that Westbrook didn't stop competing. He showed flashes of brilliance even in Los Angeles, moments where his energy swung games, where he reminded everyone why he was once unstoppable. But those flashes weren't enough. The league doesn't value occasional greatness anymore. It values consistent, efficient contributions. That's where Westbrook's game seems misaligned with the current era. And another major issue is his personality. Westbrook is fiercely competitive, but that competitiveness sometimes comes off as stubbornness. He has openly dismissed the idea of changing his role or sacrificing his identity as a player. For him, the way he plays isn't just a style, it's who he is. Asking him to come off the bench, spot up in the corner, or play a limited role is like asking a lion to become a house cat. He just isn't wired that way. And this is where the Hall of Fame paradox kicks in. Like Allen Iverson before him, Westbrook's greatness is built on being the center of attention, on playing with unmatched freedom. But as stars age, they're often asked to scale back, to accept roles that don't match their legacy. Some players, like Vince Carter or Paul Pierce, adjusted to become mentors and role players. Others, like Iverson, couldn't make that leap, and their careers ended sooner than expected. Right now, Westbrook is staring at that same crossroads, and front offices around the league see the risk. Signing Westbrook means adjusting your entire system to fit him, or dealing with the media firestorm if he struggles. For rebuilding teams, he's too dominant and expensive. For contenders, he's too unpredictable. That's why he remains unsigned, even though he still has gas left in the tank. It's not about whether he can play. It's about whether his style can coexist with today's game. Still, there's a counterargument. Westbrook's passion, leadership, and relentless drive could be exactly what a young team needs to build a culture. His energy is contagious, and his refusal to quit could inspire younger players. The question is whether Westbrook is willing to embrace that type of role, not as the superstar, but as the veteran guide. That's the leap that will determine whether his career finds new life or fades away. In the end, Westbrook's struggle is bigger than basketball. It's about identity, legacy, and the painful transition that every great athlete eventually faces. The game has evolved, and now Westbrook has to decide whether he will evolve with it or whether he will remain the same, even if it means being left behind. The NBA is a constantly evolving league. Stars rise, fade, and are replaced by the next wave of talent. What makes the Russell Westbrook situation so painful is that the league didn't wait for him to fade naturally. It sprinted ahead while he was still trying to play the same game he always played. Today's NBA is built on spacing, efficiency, versatility, and seamless fit. Teams want guards who can shoot 40% from three, wings who can guard multiple positions, and bigs who can stretch the floor. Coaches don't just want athleticism or heart, they want adaptability. Westbrook, for all his intensity, became a symbol of a past era where raw power and relentless aggression could win games. Now, in a world where analytics drive decision-making, his low shooting percentages, high turnover rate, and inconsistent defense are glaring weaknesses. NBUT, it's not just about numbers. It's about perception. Westbrook's reputation has shifted from MVP to misfit. In Oklahoma City, he was the unquestioned leader, the fiery competitor who carried the franchise after Kevin Durant left. But in Houston, Washington, Los Angeles, and finally the Clippers, he became something else, a player teams tolerated rather than celebrated. Every stop added to the narrative that Westbrook was too stubborn to change, too inefficient to trust in high-stakes games, and too dominant a personality to accept being a role player. The harsh truth is that the NBA doesn't have time for players who don't fit. Every team is chasing championships, every coach is protecting their job, and every front office is balancing the salary cap. Westbrook might still be capable of triple-doubles, but what team wants them if they don't lead to wins? What contender is willing to risk their chemistry? What rebuilding squad wants a 35-year-old star who demands the ball when they're trying to develop young talent? In some ways, this moment mirrors what happened to Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony. Both were legends who still had game left. But teams decided the risk outweighed the reward. They became cautionary tales. Players who loved basketball too much to quit but refused to adjust to the league's demands. Westbrook may now be walking that same path, and yet this doesn't feel like the end. Because for all the criticism, there's one thing nobody questions about Russell Westbrook: his love for the game. He still trains like a rookie, still attacks like every possession matters, still carries that unshakable belief that he can impact winning. The problem isn't effort, it's opportunity. Right now, the NBA has moved on without him. He isn't the face of a franchise anymore. He isn't the engine of an offense. He isn't even guaranteed a roster spot when the season tips off. But basketball has a funny way of rewarding those who refuse to give up. All it takes is one injury, one opening, one coach willing to take a chance. NFOR now, Westbrook waits. A Hall of Fame career doesn't deserve an ending in silence. And even if the league has turned the page, his story might not be finished. The question isn't just whether the NBA wants Russell Westbrook, it's whether he's ready to reinvent himself before time runs out.